Hello my fellow book addicts, Megan here and time for another book review. Today I'm going to be talking about Three Dark Crowns by Kendare, and it is book 1 in the Three Dark Crowns series. So this book takes place on an island, and every generation the queen typically gives birth to 3 daughters. There are some exceptions, but that will be discussed later, and each of these daughters has an ability. There are like 3 main sects in this little island. Each of these sections, people have abilities. There are elementals, there are poisoners, and there are naturalists. The elementals, of course, work with the elements. Poisoners are immune to poison. In fact, they regularly ingest poison in their food. And the naturalists, they basically have power over nature, like plants, plant life, and animals. And typically each daughter has an ability from each section. So one will be a poisoner, one will be a naturalist, one will be an elemental. And at a certain age, once their abilities start to show a little bit, they are raised by their own people. So a naturalist is kind of adopted by a family naturalist, and so on and so forth. And once they hit the age of 16, they have a year to try and kill each other. And the survivor is crowned the new queen until she bears a set of triplets, and the process repeats itself. And once a queen gives birth, she leaves the island. That part confused me a little bit, why the queen left the island once she had given birth, because it's not like there'll be a queen in the next 16 years, but whatever. I'll let any holes with the government of this world slide. And throughout this book, we're alternating between each of the 3 potential queens' point of view. We have Arsinoe, who is our naturalist, we have Marabella, who is our elemental, and then we have Catherine, who is a poisoner. Now, the poisoners have held the throne for the last few queens, and they're worried because Catherine doesn't have a strong gift. Like, she's good at mixing poisons, but she is very susceptible to them. She doesn't have the same level of immunity as a queen should. And then we have Arsinoe, who hasn't shown really much of a sign at all of being a skilled naturalist. Marabella, on the other hand, seems to be super powerful, and the temple is heavily backing her to be the next queen. And once Beltane starts and is finished, they are given free rein to try and murder each other. So more or less this whole book is leading up to Beltane, to when they're given the okay to start murdering each other. I went into this book with low expectations. I read Anna Dressed in Blood by Kendare, and I was really iffy on that. Like, I walked away from that being like, okay, that was okay, I guess, but not something overly awesome or spectacular. So I tried to keep my expectations low going into this, because I really like the premise, and I wanted to go in and give it a shot. And I just gotta say, this book really surpassed my expectations. I ended up liking it so much more than I thought I was gonna, which was a huge relief, because I really wanted to like this book, because it sounded cool. And just especially at the end. Oh my god. When I finished this book, I immediately had to go out and buy the second one, because I needed to start reading it the second I got a review for this film, because, oh my god, some of the twists and some of the questions that I have because of that twist and before I found out that twist, and just holy crap. So, other than repeating, this book was awesome, and I'm so glad that I read it. I'm going to go into a more spoilery bit, so if you have not read Three Dark Crowns yet, and you have any intention of doing so, I highly suggest you click away now, come back after you read the book, and we can discuss and gush about things that have happened. So before I go into some of the questions I have, can I just say, Peter, I want to punch in the face for what he did to Catherine. Like, to a point, to a very small point, I can understand his reasoning. He thought that Catherine was going to be murdered by the temple, but throwing her into the dark abyss, it's like, that's not much better. Especially since it's like, what on the off chance she didn't die once she landed? What if she survived the fall? Then she'd just be sitting there, dying slowly, one way or another. And it'd probably be a much slower and possibly even more painful death than what the priestesses were gonna do to her. It's like, if you want to kill her by your own hand to be merciful, surely there are better ways to do that. Also, Joseph is trash. He claims to have loved Jules so much, but then he cheated on her with Mirabella. Like, yeah, the first time he was delirious and what have you. Part of me is struggling to figure out how I feel about that one. The whole him being delirious when they did the deed. Part of me is just like, well, he was delirious. He wasn't in his right mind. So maybe that can be forgiven. Then the other part of me is just like, a cheater's a cheater. He cheated. He is trash. So if it was just that one time, maybe I could be a little undecided. But the fact that he continued to cheat throughout the time that him and Mirabella were traveling together to the Beltane Festival, just that I cannot forgive him for. That there are no excuses at all. All throughout those times, he was in his right mind, he knew what he was doing, and he is a freaking trash human being. Honestly, nothing can redeem him in my eyes. Like, I would applaud Jules if she sent Camden after him, because damn, he deserves that and more. Yeah, I'm sorry, I have no tolerance for cheaters. They are trash people, whether they are in real life or in fiction, and yeah, Joseph is trash. And I hope a big bit of karma comes and bites him in the ass. The temple scares the ever-loving crap out of me. Like, I understand, from a point of view, one, to switch up the government a bit, get poisoners away from the seat of power, and get someone else in there. I can get that, and I can respect that. But the way they were going about things was horrifying. Trying to stage things so it looks like Mirabella is destined to be queen, that she is a white-handed queen. Because Mirabella does not want to kill her sisters up until the end of the book. But that's because a horrible turn of events. But yeah, she doesn't want to kill her sisters. She remembers her sisters. She remembers loving them. Which I find interesting that only she remembers, but Catherine and Arsenault don't remember the few years they had together at all. Like, is it just because they were young children? Or is it because they were somehow made to forget? Because while I'm 26 years old, so I'm a lot older than these girls are, but I still remember some things when I was young. No, like, concrete memories, but you know, I'm sure out of the few years they have conscious memory of together, they can remember enjoying being one another's company. Or maybe they themselves force themselves to forget to make this easier for them. To make killing each other easier. And I just found it really interesting how this generation of queens isn't, you know, always the go-to. Sometimes a fourth queen is born, in which I believe it was said the other three were drowned and the fourth queen was made queen by default. Or when the other two queens' gifts are weak, then the stronger one automatically becomes queen. Or if any of the queens are born with the gift of the sight, they are killed when they are young. So I just found that it was really interesting that there were other little twists to what potentially could happen, and how the temple was trying so hard to make it look like Mirabella was a white-handed queen, that Arsenault and Catherine's gifts are weak, and so they're not fit to be queen, so Mirabella becomes queen because her sisters are killed, and therefore she is a white-handed queen. She is not the one to draw the blood herself. So I found that interesting, very clever on the temple's part, but horrifying to think that they're willing to go that far. Stop beating around the bush. That twist at the end. The twist of Arsenault being a poisoner instead of a naturalist. So does that make Catherine a naturalist instead of a poisoner? And the better question, how did that mix-up happen? Like, it was established that the queen knows which each of her daughter's gifts are going to be upon their birth. So, did she purposely lie and say Arsenault was a naturalist and Catherine was a poisoner? Or did she say correctly and someone, while raising the girls, purposely switch the two. So was that mishap purposeful? And if so, why? Did they do that purposefully so that they were raised not knowing their true gifts and therefore could not learn to hone their skills, and thus making Mirabella the queen? Or was it a way to kind of save one of the two girls who were switched? Like, if someone tried to poison Arsinoe, she would survive because she's really a poisoner. So it's like, there's so many questions, and I can't wait to find the answers to them. Like, I am so excited to go into the next book to try and figure this out. Because now that the quickening ceremony is over, they have free reign to try and kill each other. So things are going to get real, they're going to be at each other's throats. Mirabella is even, like, ready to harm her sisters, and oh my goodness. Is Catherine going to get familiar? If so, what is her familiar going to be? And just, holy crap. I don't really have much more to talk about. So, was anyone else surprised by that twist? What are your thoughts? What are your theories? How do you think things are going to go? Let's share, let's discuss. And yeah, that's all I have left to say. So that is it for this book review, and I hope to see you guys next time.